Mic check 1 2 1 2 1 2. Mic check. I already stuttered on my words. How you doing? I'm Dr. Cool Whip, and I just recently made an S tier, or not an S tier, but a tier list. So I wanted to run through and grab some capture of some of the higher ranking classes, subclasses for warlocks in my list. One of them that I ranked that was an oldie but a goodie that just got better is the Attunement of Chaos. I think this is actually a pretty interesting subclass, since abilities got a bit of a tuning pass, they became more potent. The charged grenade from the Attunement of Chaos is actually fairly effective. We'll be using Axiom Bolt with this to cover as many weaknesses as possible, and I figured why not practice for Season 5 and use my Malicious Birthright. So the entire purpose of this build is to be a Grenader, or Grenadier. We're going to be using 3 grenade cooldown mods in our armor. We have 2 super cooldown mods in there as well, but those are usually used for different builds that I have, but they're what I had available, so those are the pieces that I'll be using. Normally I'd probably prefer to use this with Controverse holds and 5 cooldowns, because I think that that would be the most effective way to do this. As long as you have enhanced ashes to assets in your helmet, I think that that's a pretty viable strategy, but I don't have Controverse holds, and I do have enhanced ashes to assets in my Eye of Another World. So technically we have a passive cooldown to everything, our Rift, our Melee, and our Grenade, along with 3 cooldown mods, bringing our cooldown mods for our Grenade up to 4, and then a passive Melee cooldown from our helmet, a passive Rift cooldown from our helmet, and then we have an additional 2 super cooldown mods. So we have cooldowns on pretty much everything. This should be a really active build as far as ability uptime goes. Our Melee contributes to our Grenade uptime. I didn't really cover it, but our arms also have an enhanced perk in them called Enhanced Impact Induction, so that grenade damage deals, or when you deal grenade damage to targets, you'll get increased melee energy back. That will be very good when you're using something like Axiom Bolts, because they hit multiple targets and they seek them out aggressively, so that's multiple registrations of damage from a grenade. I guess I'm just going to use my Luna's Howl. I use a radar tuner on this, and then I think, yeah, I'll be using Jade Rabbit, or not Jade Rabbit, but the Two-Tailed Fox, for the purpose of shutting down supers. I usually don't go for heavy ammo in PvP for the most part. I just prefer not to play with heavy. But that's kind of the general scope of what we're going to be doing. So I did just play this game. I know how it all went down. And I'll be providing commentary for the most part throughout this game, talking about points that I think are important to talk about. The first couple of minutes, for some reason, the enemies weren't registering as far as their character models, so I was fighting invisible characters, and it made it a little bit tough to make educated decisions. And that's unfortunate. You can see there, you can kind of see him, but you can kind of don't. And they managed to grab the heavy, and they shut me down. Now the opponent team was playing a lot better than the team that I was on. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. I think this is just a good showing of how you can easily get shut down. That kill right there where I just died was just really bad positioning by me. I was overextended, I should have played my cover, and I was relying too heavily on my teammates. So the other thing to note is don't rely too much on your teammates if you're just doing quick play. Just prefer to play by yourself, like I do. Keep a good eye on the radar. Don't rely on your teammates, don't overextend, don't aggressively push, and put yourself into a position where you need backup from your teammates in order to win engagements. Since my build right now, or since my build is fairly aggressive and focused on being an aggressive presence in the map with lightweight grenades and the Axiom Bolts in general. Now there, I don't think I got the full charge off on my grenade. I was fairly certain that I got the full charge, but I'm not entirely certain. The damage registration numbers looked as if I did get the full charge, but the animation for the full charge, indicating the full charge, wasn't there. But the speed of the Axiom Bolts was. So again, like I was saying, this is a very aggressive build, or it's catered around being aggressive. That's why it's favoring a high mobility stat. over like a high resiliency stat, even though I think a high resiliency would be beneficial to a type of build like this, so long as you can have high mobility as well. High mobility with this particular type of build is going to allow you to have access to better peak shots, which is good with a hand cannon, and it allows you to get in and out of cover more reliably, which is also very good if you're using a grenade launcher, because you can fire, dip into cover, switch guns, peek back out, clean up whatever's there. I don't think there's too much to talk about. What we're really trying to do is focus down the enemy. That was a really bad grenade on my end. I think I get out of that one. Yeah. So what we're trying to do is put damage on multiple targets and clean up multiple targets with the Axion bolts and proc bloom, which causes enemies that are killed by void abilities to explode. So we're really focused down on cluster damage. The grenade launcher also helps us put in some extra damage. That was a bad grenade. Also helps us put in some extra damage on multiple targets while also being in cover. It's fairly snappy. It bolsters our stats. And yeah, so that's basically the idea. And Luna's Howl is just a good backup weapon for anything that you're trying to clean up. I get a little frustrated with this Warlock. I mean, Warlocks are the worst, right? Am I right there? I'm probably right there. Warlocks are the worst. After I miss a couple of shots, I'd like to segue into another point that I like to make about this build. It's very reminiscent to me of a D1 build that I really liked, which was using one of the artifacts that negated your super but gave you more abilities. You got 2 grenade charges and 2 melee charges. I don't know how that rocket killed me, by the way. I'm not sure how he shot me through that thing. I'm pretty sure I saw that rocket go straight through that ball, but I could be mistaken. I think he might have jumped down from the ledge, or jumped through the ledge after pulling heavy, and then hit me from above, and then my kill cam just showed him while he was on the ground. So it's my fault there. But back on the topic of the build that this is reminiscent of, is it does remind me of a build in D1 that you could do with a Warlock, where you just negate your super entirely. As a Void Walker, you only really had access to Nova Bomb. So you negate your super, you get more uptime with your abilities, and then you use your abilities to gain advantage in the map. I really like playing that style, and I like playing with that build. And this is reminiscent of that in the sense that you can use your super as a means to bolstering your grenade and enhancing your grenade uptime, which is why I'm focusing more on grenade cooldowns, and why I think this build in particular would be better suited with 5 grenade cooldowns instead of super cooldowns, but I don't have it fully optimized for that specific type of playstyle. I think it's a very interesting concept to use the Attunement of Chaos for area of effect damage. And I think with the grenade launcher, it's a very interesting build and interesting mechanic. And since we're not really emphasized on our super, we're not going to be focusing on getting to our super. And then we can just really double down on the grenade play. So yeah, I think this is a bad engagement for me here. I miss a lot of shots. Got him, right? Got him. Take that. Take that, sir, to the face. I'm trying to get some ammo. The other problem, or other thing to consider with this build, might be to use something like Fastball. I was going to say the other problem with this build is the grenade trajectory. When you throw your Axion Bolt, it kind of has like a really slow loping arc. It doesn't really have the best arc to it, so you can't really chuck it very far distances. But a perk in your arms called Fastball could really bolster that specific type of play. And if you're trying to be a very aggressive cluster damage Warlock, by the way, don't mind my potatoing in the background. I'm really sorry for the bad footage. Yeah, sometimes I'm not very good at the Crucible, and by sometimes I mean all the time. But I think that Fastball could be a very interesting perk to use in arms. It's not really used by a lot of players in the Crucible, as far as I know, but it could be very interesting with something like this, where your grenade is the sole emphasis of your build. That's another part about this build that I like, is that you can use your Nova Bomb effectively. You can shoot it to detonate it early. Graviton Lance kills me here. You can shoot your Nova Bomb early, so that you can detonate it on top of targets and then proc the Axion Seekers on anything that's in the area. So I think that that's a very fun mechanic to play around with as well. I think it adds a little bit of skill gap to the subclass in general. My video is going to cut out here in just a second because I'm using Xbox, the record feature on Xbox, which only has a 10-minute time limit to its thing, but I ended up dying to a rocket, just so you know. Yeah, so back on skill gap and finesse plays with Nova Bomb. Even if we're not focused in on our super, we still have access to it, especially through the Enhanced Dashes to Assets perk. The more kills we get with our grenade, the faster our super cooldown is built. And if we're not solely focused on super cooling down, and we're focused more on grenades cooling down, then the energy that we get back from our grenades contributes to the energy that we use from our super. By the way, I'm bad. The energy that we get back from our grenades into our super bar is from the Enhanced Dashes to Assets, so we have a net numerical value of 0 for our energy consumption to actually charge our grenades. So if you're trying to optimize this build, what I would try and do is not use Eye of Another World, although I do think it is a fairly viable piece. Use Controverse Holds because it speeds up your charge time and grants you an overshield, and kills with... These guys get wrecked here, by the way, watch this. Every single one of them. I'm really sorry. But the cool thing is that if you're using Controverse Holds, you do get ability energy back for getting kills with your abilities. With your grenade, I think. And then you do get a bit of an overshield as well. I get outplayed here. And then if you have Enhanced Dashes to Assets in your helmet, then you can double down on that duality, and then you might want to try and get fastball in your Controverse Holds. That might be the perk that you're looking for if you're trying to double down on this specific type of build and optimize it fully. I think it would be really fun to do that, and I have been having a lot of fun running around and shooting my Nova Bomb on top of people, whether it be on top of supers or on top of clusters of people. This is not necessarily the best showing of this build, but it definitely had some moments in it where I think the potency of this type of playstyle can be shown. Again, I'm not like the best player in the universe by any means, but I do enjoy playing this game. And yeah, I wanted to try and make a video that was reflective of the general sandbox and how a game can go poorly, but you can still have moments of glory within the game and feel like the subclass that you're using is rewarding, even though it's not completely S tier. So thanks for watching, and